Well, look who it is. It's my friend Simone Denny.
Hey,
Looking
darling,
gorgeous as
how are you?
always.
You're handsome as always.
Well, thank you. I've got a bit of a cold, so if I sound at all like Brenda Vaccaro, forgive that today. I'm excited about today here on Simone and Shaun.
Yes,
Got an amazing guest with us, but I
yes.
wanted to check in and see how you're doing because you haven't been feeling 100% either.
No, I'm back to the land of the living finally. It was a rough
Yes.
week. It was a rough week. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm telling tales out of school, but Simone said she looked like death.
Pretty much.
She wouldn't even, I think we were trying to FaceTime or something. She wouldn't even have her camera on.
I was like, you can't unsee this. It's not good. It's not good.
Oh,
Not good.
anything you want to share before we bring our guest on?
No, nothing. I
No,
mean,
nothing.
career wise, song went #1 in Ireland and still going up the
Yay.
UK charts. Yeah.
Yeah. Number
Yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
That stuff. That stuff.
That stuff. I knew something was going to happen to you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So
How
our
about you?
guest, me. Oh,
Yeah.
just pushing I don't have a #1 song in Ireland.
Oh Lord, Shaun.
I don't have a Juno either.
We're working on that.
But we're working on it. One
We're
day.
working on it.
One day it shall be mine.
Yes.
I want to bring in our guest. He is well known for his role in Veronica Mars, if you remember that show, and was also pivotal in The Young and the Restless, playing the role of Adam Newman for a number of years. He's the only Adam Newman that I acknowledge still to this day, even though he's not with YNR anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Michael Muhney. Oh, you're sideways now, Michael.
Okay, let me tilt and do another.
There we go.
Now is it cool?
There we go.
Great.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Michael.
Simone,
Hi,
Michael Simone.
Hello.
Simone, I hope you're feeling better.
Oh, much significantly better. Significantly. I'm back to the land of the living. We're good.
There's nothing like feeling under the weather.
What's that?
There's nothing like feeling down under the weather. It's nice to when you get your regular self back, you know?
Yes.
So I invited Michael on because we wanted to talk about a topic that probably everyone can relate to in this COVID world that we're living in, and just this world in general that we're living in. And that's the topic of loss. And I thought of Michael when we were talking about doing this topic because he and I shared the loss of a friend this summer, Nelson Branco, a giant in media here in Canada. Passed away in August, and so we sort of went through that together. And so I was thinking about him because this is a time of year too. We're recording this just before Christmas time, when people feel the absence of those they loved the most in some cases. And so we wanted to just have a chat about that with you, Michael. And I'm so glad that you said yes. So thank you for coming on.
Sure, it's not an easy topic, but it's a part of life is death, and so to avoid it completely is to not live. So I've got to struggle through what I got to struggle through, like we all do, right?
You've had a couple of losses this year.
Yeah, I've had more than a couple. It's been in the last year or so. I've lost both my grandparents. And my best friend from 8 years old on, he ended up marrying my sister. I lost him to suicide. And I lost my stepdad, my mom's husband of 26 years, to COVID. And then, of course, Nelson. And also my mentor from high school, the drama teacher that recruited me out of the speech and debate classes and said I would be a natural on stage. And he was the one who got me to originally believe in myself and that I could be an actor, and helped get me into the right college, everything. And he remained a friend and a mentor to the very end. And he just passed away a few months ago as well. And then I got to put both my cats down. So it's been a reign over me, kind of like, you know, I've found myself looking up at the sky a few times here or there and saying like, all right, enough. Can I have just a break
Yeah.
for a chunk of my life? Just, do we get a
Yeah.
bunch out of the way? Because I can't handle this. I can't bear it anymore.
I had
Been
3
there.
deaths literally a week apart.
Ugh.
So I had about 6 this year. Friends passing, family passing, lost my
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
And it was like that, especially the 3 in a row that happened. And I had barely processed or started to process the one when the second came along, and 2 to process, and the third came along. And it really just, and I think a lot of people watching this right now can relate. I don't know what's going on in the world, but I don't know many people who aren't affected by loss this year, which is why we wanted
Yeah.
to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So
I
when
lost a
you've
friend
had
as well this year
a
too.
bunch.
So there's a few people, but there's one person in particular stood out more than the others, and it was rough. I'm still coping with it, so I get it. And I've had loss where it's been quite a few relatives at once, you know, so it was within days of each other. So I can relate, definitely.
And I think people are also
Oh,
experiencing, you know, job loss, financial loss,
Yeah.
loss of relationships as well. I don't know
Yes.
what's in the world right now, but everywhere I turn, that's what people are facing right now. Michael,
Yeah.
how do you feel people can cope? What have you done during this year to make things sort of balance out inside yourself when all this has been going on?
That's a good question. First, let me say I'm sorry to both of you guys for your losses as well. It's to get your heart broken and to lose only makes a non-sociopathic person, a regular person, just become more of an empath for others, and you feel for people because all of a sudden your heart can go out to people because you're like, gosh, I know exactly how you're hurting and how deep
Yeah.
it goes. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry for both of you as well. It's
You.
Yeah.
yikes. I guess, okay, so to answer your question, I was I think I was a junior in college in Chicago at a conservatory at DePaul University, and I was doing a play called Harvey, the 6 foot tall rabbit. Um, and I had a significant role in it. And it was a late Saturday night, maybe Sunday morning, 1 in the morning. I got a call from my mom, and about an hour outside of Chicago by train, where my grandparents lived on my mom's side, her parents, my Omi, my German grandmother, she passed away quite suddenly. It just came out of nowhere. And I had a matinee show Sunday morning and then Sunday evening. And I never cursed in front of my mom my whole life, but I remember I was on the phone with her and she was sniffling and, you know, holding back tears and telling me about her mom.
Mm.
And I said, fuck that. I'm coming out. I'm getting on a train. I'm coming out. I
Mm.
can't bear it. I won't be any good for this show or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom said to me, and it was, you know, and a long story short, it was the show must go on sort of a thing. But my mom said, you know, your Omi. She would, my Omi was always quick to slap your top of your hand if you said something out of line or something. She would, don't you dare. Don't. And so my mom, she said, you know, your Omi would slap your hand right now and say, don't you miss a show on my behalf. I'm not going to let
That's
anybody
right.
blame that on me. You do
Mm.
that show.
That's right.
And so I remember I did that matinee show in my grandmother's honor, just thinking of her. And so I guess to answer your question, you really have to just power through. If you don't, then you'll just crumble, right? And the people who you've lost, they would be upset with you. They'd be hurt if they knew that your life started to fall apart because they're gone. They wouldn't want that blame or responsibility. You know, they'd want the best for you. So it's that bittersweet thing where you don't want to go on. You want to curl up in fetal position and just never do any damn thing again.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is like, I have to live. They got to live their life to the very end, to their last day. I better live mine to my last day.
I think
I think sorry, go ahead, Shaun.
no, I was just going to say real quick. I think it's okay to curl up in that fetal position for a little bit. I know when Nellie died, it was hard to sort of get going for a couple of days, back to myself. But you're absolutely right. You have to dive back in, and it's a way of honoring them too, isn't it? When you do that and proceed with your life to the fullest, because that's what they are wanting for you right now.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Those who have passed on. No, that's okay. This is great. We're in the same trajectory. Those who have passed want you to live and live well. So that I think that's what we have to carry with us all the time.
Yeah, it's just surreal though. There's such a for most kids, and you hope for all kids, but it's not always that way. But for most kids, you haven't lived long enough to accumulate enough people in your life to then start losing people. And once you hit that tipping point in your life where you lose someone and then you lose someone else and you lose, and as we're talking on topic about this last year or two, where all of a sudden it's felt like an onslaught for so many people. It's, then and only then do you really start to realize what time is and how it's finite and it's a ticking clock, and what friendships really mean and what really matters too, right? A hug or laughter or a bond, as opposed to some stupid expensive watch that someone is wearing or some
time
bullshit
spent
TikTok.
Together. Or time spent together, memories,
the stuff that really, really matters.
Yeah.
I think too, in my case, this year, it was a bit of a bitch slap, like one after another across the face, because two of the girlfriends that passed, one had a heart attack, one had breast cancer, both in their mid-late 40s. Nell was 48, I believe, 49 maybe, but all so young. And I just felt in the back of my head when all this was going on, it was like life saying, play harder, push harder. You're not doing your maximum. These people didn't get a chance to push hard and play harder. And so you must. Sort of what you're saying, Michael, but it just it felt like life was shaking me up a bit.
Yeah.
You refocus, I think, that is a positive, I think, in it, is that it shifts your focus on whatever you thought was important right back to like, no, this is what life is about. This is what's important. All the other stuff is fluff. It's all extras. So yeah.
Yeah, you recalibrate and you just sort of you reassess what are you doing with your time and where are you putting your values, and it's even, forget about values. I don't know, I'm not a thesaurus, so I couldn't tell you what the negative of a value is. But something that's valueless, right? Where you put your values and letting yourself get all wrapped up around the axle about what people think about you or what something, a slight against you, or you have these perceived things that's why are you putting any energy towards anything but just trying to live your life and love and care and even forgive the negative that's around you, and just say like, I have to take that high road and be up here and live because it's short. And what are you doing wasting your time getting all wrapped up in a big mess of things, and
drama,
whatever it is, people can be superficial or material or hung up on just all the wrong stuff. And so I just always, I guess I'm a person who every time I get knocked down, I want to get up and have figured out a little bit better way not to get knocked down the next time, right? Each time you're smarter, you want to be better, you want to find more focus, and instead of let things tear you apart and take little pieces out of you, you want to add pieces to you so you're a stronger person. And I guess I should bring up, if we're talking about loss, so my grandmother, who passed away just a couple months ago, just shy of 90. I have never, everyone talked about her the same way. All the cousins, uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews, everyone said they've never seen a happier, kinder person. And yet in 90 years of living, she had horrible things happen to her, and she lost horrible people so close to her, and one of her children, my aunt, to suicide, and for a parent to lose a child, there's just so, and nothing ever stopped her from being positive and being just spreading nothing but love. And so at her funeral, the night of her funeral, we were all in my uncle's backyard, and there were a good amount of people, and it was a party, and there were so many people who said that night, in one way or another, this is one of the greatest days I've ever had in my life. I mean, the day of her funeral, who she was as a person for 90 years lived on in us that night, where we were happy and we were positive, and it's because she did that to us. And so it's like, you can learn from her too, and go, you know, she's been through a lot to get to that age, and yet nothing ever brought her spirits down. She just kept trucking, you know. And this little 4'9" tiny little human being that was a powerhouse, you know. And it's like, wow, I want to learn. You can learn lessons from the grave, right? You know, people can teach you things even after they're gone.
That bleeds into my next question for you is do you believe in our ability to continue a relationship with those who've passed on?
Oh, that's interesting.
However woo-woo it is, whether it's signs, whether it's talking to a psychic, whether it's just being able to talk to them and feeling their presence around you. You were talking a bit earlier, and that's what tweaked me to ask you this. But I had a psychic once, and she's very, very good. She's an Australian woman, and she had my dad coming through her, and he kept saying to me, and it was so true of the time. He kept saying, "Stop worrying, stop worrying. Worrying is a waste of your time. Stop worrying." And I was worrying to the hilt at the time, and it really reminded me, from a dead person who knows better, who's not around on the planet with us anymore. I thought I stopped worrying to that degree that I was. I dialed it down from a 10 to a 2, and I've never worried hard like that anymore since he said that to me. I wonder, have you had experiences like that, Michael, or do you buy into that?
Oh man, that's a deep, deep question. You know, if I'm answering honestly, I wish that I believed in a consciousness after death. But what I believe, and everyone believes their own thing, I believe in an energy and a warmth. And you know, we literally, and everyone always, people misuse that word all the time, but we literally are made of stardust.
Yes.
And star matter, and we eat and consume star matter our whole lives to stay alive, and so do plants and other animals, and we eat them. And so we have this energy in us, and we continue on as energy, and that warmth and that energy is there. But a consciousness, right, an ability to be aware of oneself, do we have that after death? And I don't know, but the way that I see a message from your father coming through, the way that I would see something, a lesson that my grandmother is teaching me, or hearing a voice and just knowing that my friend is telling me this, or my stepdad is telling me that, or my Nelson, you know, whatever, is what I feel instead is a Rolodex, or a library that we have in our hearts and our minds of so many conversations and experiences we had with them here while we were both conscious together. And you know, it's something that he would tell you, or that he has told you a million times. And so in a beautiful way, he is in you, because he's telling you this because he imprinted himself on your soul.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, my question would be, where do you continue to gather your strength from?
I don't feel very strong, to be honest. You know, I mean, this is, you know, I'm, as we talk, you know, it's like I've got faces of people that I'm seeing that, you know, I'm being forced to, putting myself in a position to think of them now and reflect, all in this sort of concentrated moment. And as we talk, I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm always running on empty, you know, but the strength that I find is either out of, if it's within myself, it's out of sheer stubbornness. But
Okay.
the strength that I find, it's from of course, it's from the people that you love, right? I mean, why are you here? What purpose do you serve other than to just consume oxygen and eat food and pollute the planet by yourself, and do nothing if you're not interacting with others and loving them and being loved? And so I find the strength to power on through the people closest to me. But it's weird, right? It's time is linear. So
Yeah.
the people that you love, they're not all here. Some have passed into that next stage, but you are still alive. And so you are still loving them, and you're loving them as much as you love the person in your life who is still alive. And
Yes.
so I don't differentiate between my love between a person who's passed or gone. I love the people that I love. And so
Yes.
those that I love, both here and now passed on, that's, I guess, who I find strength from, because I'm not really quick to credit myself and giving myself strength.
Okay.
I don't feel like I have much on my own.
Well, you know what? I think it takes a lot of strength to be here on this show talking about it right now. So I think you're stronger than you know.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I've just been bullied into this thing. I don't really want to be here talking about this.
The threats I issued.
Yes, yeah.
The stalking that occurred.
the myriad annoying texts and phone calls, and are you gonna do this? And it's like, oh, fine, I'll
Shaun.
do this.
When I want a guest, I want a guest. God damn it.
Apparently.
What are you going to do going into the holidays that maybe soothes things for you when you notice the gaps, when you notice the absence of your grandmother, when you don't say happy holidays to Nell, when those gaps happen and you realize the absence is so real? What are you planning on doing, or do you just take it as it comes? I'm thinking about people watching this who are relating and not sure how to proceed with their losses.
Yeah, man, how does one go on, and why is the holidays a time when there's so much depression, and the depression comes from feeling isolated or alone or lost? So, you know, the voice in my head that scolds me and tells me to pay attention to the moment and live in the moment and appreciate what is right here in front of you, that voice gets louder and louder as I get older, and as I lose one more person each time in my life, that says, at some point it's all gone, and what are you doing if not enjoying the moment? So these holidays, I'll enjoy all those in my life that I love, that I have with me, that I can embrace.
Yes.
But my aunt, one of my grandma's daughters, she sent me a picture last night that she put up. My grandma was living at her house until she passed, and she said, I'm putting up only one Christmas ornament this year, and it was a Snoopy Christmas tree that my grandmother had, and it has that one ornament on it. It's bent, and it's
Beautiful.
got hardly any branches, and
That's okay.
and my grandma had that one in the original box as it's stored away throughout the year since the 1960s or something. And
Wow.
so she's putting up this tree, and she said, I'm just gonna, it'll be the only decoration in and out of the house, and it'll just make me think of my mom. And I just thought, like, there's that thing where you'll find a moment where something reminds you of someone who's gone around the holidays, and you'll just smile, maybe shed a tear, but you'll smile and think of them. And
Yeah.
it still confounds me that I can't call Nelson this Christmas time, or just see how he's doing, and he bitches at me about how cold Toronto is at this time of year. So none of this really feels real. Even this conversation we're having right now, it's like you almost feel like you're being punked. It's not real,
right?
That these people are really gone. So the confusion and the confounding manner of loss, it's like, what do you do in the holidays? And then do you feel guilty for laughing and playing and having a great day during the holidays. And then you think like,
No.
why you want to beat yourself up for
Yeah.
that? Should you be more torn apart and missing those? And so there's all those things that happen. And I guess I'll just take every day this month, one day at a time. And
yes.
And I'll have my ups and downs like everyone does around the holidays. And, you know, the interesting thing to point out, though, is that the three of us were discussing our losses, and everyone out there, it's not like it's unique to you and that you're allowed to feel sad or to power through the sadness and be happy around the holidays. Everybody has the same situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no wrong way to go about managing this. I think everyone's going to have their own pace, their own way of dealing with it. And there's no guidebook or rule book for grieving. I'm shocked at the amount of time I spend thinking of Nelson, the number of times he pops into my head. And I shouldn't be shocked, but he pops into my head at almost inopportune times when I'm feeling a bit more vulnerable in the day. There he is. And you feel that sting again, but you've got to just proceed as we've been talking about, and live life hard because they can't.
I will tell you one thing that I learned from my aunt, who has the Snoopy tree, Snoopy, the Charlie Brown tree, whatever you call it. I think it's the Snoopy tree. Who cares? She suffered a kind of loss that I can't imagine hardly anyone going through. My cousins, Danny and Chrissy, her son and daughter, a few years apart in age, they died 10 months apart from each other in their early 20s. And this would have been, you know, about 12, 15 years ago. I'm not counting. And both of my cousins passed in tragic circumstances. And my aunt's, she stood up at I was filming an independent film out in the desert, a horror film at the time, and I couldn't leave the set and fly across the country to go to my cousin Danny's funeral. But I remember family members telling me that when my aunt stood up in front of everyone, at whatever point she had, she said, "Standing up in front of you now will be my last act as a mother, because after today, I'm not a mom for the rest of my life. I'm someone who was a mom.
Yes.
And I no longer have children. And anybody I meet for the first time after today, if they ask me, no, I don't have children. I'm alone." And that kind of suffering in both of your children, and horrible. She and I are very close. We're closer in age than my father is to her and their actual siblings. So he's the oldest of 6 kids in a big Catholic family, and she's right at the end of that. And I'm my dad's oldest child, so I'm closer in age to her. So we're very, very close. And over the ensuing 2 or 3 years after they passed, we'd have really difficult conversations, and she'd really open up with me on the phone and just sort of like let it all hang out. And the thing that was a common theme that she taught me, and she didn't know she was teaching me this, but she would say how much it hurt her that people in the family and close friends, there were those that wouldn't mention Danny or Chrissy's name. They wouldn't say the name. We
talked about this, for
the fear of bringing them up to my aunt and putting her in a dark place. So they just never wanted to mention it. And she was so hurt and offended by that, because she said they lived too, and to pretend like they never existed hurts me even more than of course I feel the pain, and it's raw, and you're not gonna, if you mention them, I'm not gonna be like, oh gosh, I forgot my kids died, thanks for ruining my day. She's like, they're always, it's right there with me. So she taught me to talk about the fallen, and that it's okay to bring up their name. So I find now, after all this loss that I'm feeling recently, that I might be annoying the crap out of my kids because I talk about my friends and my family who are gone, but I bring them up. I keep them alive. I took my daughter. We snuck away one night a couple weeks ago to West Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard to not Fatburger. We went to Shake Shack. And we snuck away, got burger and fries and shakes, and just had our own little date night kind of a thing. And it was a cold night, and it was fun. And I spent half the time at Shake Shack talking about Nelson, because the last time I was at that Shake Shack, Nelson was here, and we walked over from his hotel. We hung out there during the day, and then we walked over to Shake Shack and up the road, and we ate there. And so I just spent some time talking about him. I don't know if it made my 14-year-old daughter feel uncomfortable that I'm talking about a dead friend, or if she learned a lesson from me, and I'm teaching her things about how you talk about the people you've lost. It was good for me. It was cathartic for me, but who knows, maybe she left horrified. But it seemed like we bonded over that, and it was a good talk. And I'll continue to be that guy that just keeps talking about those I've lost.
I would wager she learned a lesson from you, and I think a bunch of people listening to this probably did too. Because we need to talk about the people that have passed and
absolutely
and didn't exist, and reminded me of that. So thank you.
Say their names. Say their names.
Yes, because I think what I take from our conversation today more than anything else is the love never goes away. You know, the love never leaves. The love and the memories never go. And I mean, as kind of cheesy as people may take that, but it's true. You know, the fact that you're in Shake Shack and this energy came to you and you wanted to talk about Nelson. And those are stories and love that will never leave you. And I think that's the important thing to take away from all of this. Even at the hardest times in our life, hold on to those relationships, those memories, the love, the laughter. Those are the things that carry on.
Yeah.
You know, those are the things that ultimately carry on. Oh, you know what? It's important. I know quite a few people that are going through this, and my family and I refer to it as the year first. You know, it's the first year without whoever it is, the occasions, the birthdays, or Christmases, and it's hard. You know, it's very hard. But you've got to. I think once you get through that, it doesn't go away. The pain never goes away, but you learn to cope with it a lot better. You know, the coping comes along.
I agree with you, and it's a powerful concept that the first that you bring up, the first Christmas, the first birthday, the first anniversary without someone.
Yes.
You know, and it's just so hard. And, you know, you get wrapped up in your own sadness and pain. And, you know, they say misery loves company, right? But that isn't always a pejorative thing. It's not always such a negative. Because the truth is, misery sometimes needs company. You need to be visited when you're miserable, right? And so the company is realizing that others go through this, they feel that pain, and that we're all connected, and we should treat each other, even those people you don't regard as having your same ideologies, and maybe you think have some disgusting political choices or religious or personal choices or whatever. It's like, man, that we're all just trying to trudge through and process our pain and our experiences in life. And maybe we should just be a little kinder and understand we're all in this. I was watching a Morgan Freeman narrated Netflix special that had just come out. It's called Our Universe. And I love that kind of stuff, the National Geographic stuff, whatever. And I always get so affected when there was this one episode, you know, they're showing how when an elephant loses a family member or a tribe member, how they mourn their loss, and then they can revisit a year later. They come back to the bones and the tusk, and they cry and they mourn and they moan and they groan and they caress the tusk and the bones, and knowing that, like, intelligent mammals, like we all are, but not just humans, we feel loss and pain and heartbreak. It's a part of life. It's such a horrible part of life, but maybe that's what makes life so beautiful, is that the other side of it is death, and it's so awful and terrible that life must be heaven. We're in heaven now, why don't we accept it and embrace the beauty of what we have?
See, I agree with everything you just said. My perspective of all of it is that when you die or you pass, this is the realm we're in now. They go to another realm, because science tells us that energy cannot die. It only changes form.
Yep.
And so we are energy. So
Yeah.
to me, it goes beyond religion. It goes beyond all of it. Science tells us. So if
You
you
know
want to
what
call that
can die?
spirituality,
You know what can
you want
die?
to call that, sorry?
You know what can die? This
What?
Zoom call. We've got less than a minute left.
Okay. Well,
I'm
I
cutting
just
you
think
off.
that, and I literally feel that, hold that to be true, is that we change form and that we go to another realm of existence. So that's my take on that.
Michael Muhney, you're such a gentleman for coming on. I appreciate you.
You are.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
And sending you a lot of love for the holidays, a lot of love and strength.
Yes.
Likewise to you guys and to anyone out there listening.
Yes.
Love and strength.
Yes. Thank you for gracing us with your presence today. It's a pleasure.
Stop it.
No,
That's
really,
ridiculous.
This was lovely.
From all the bribes I had to do, the intimidation tactics. And then there were two. That Zoom call ended kind of abruptly, and Michael Muhney is gone. I hate being the clock watcher because I can see there's 2 minutes left. I can see there's 1 minute left, and Michael's saying such lovely things, and then you chimed in with stuff that was making me river clamp. But the clock is ticking down. The clock is ticking down.
Okay, that's okay.
That's sort of off the grid for the type of show we're used to putting on, a little heavier maybe, but I just feeling it in my bones that a lot of people are going through a lot with this subject matter, and I knew Michael would be up to talking about it. And he was amazing. He's a lovely man. Absolutely.
It's very real at this time of year for a lot of people. A lot of people. I'm coming up on the anniversary of the last time I saw my friend, and did not know that was going to be the last time I saw her.
Yeah.
So it's ringing and rolling around in my mind. So it's very real. It's very, very real.
I loved what you said about the year of firsts. I totally remember that with my dad dying. You have to go through the birthdays, you have to go through the holidays, you have to go through all those sort of things.
I think the first and second year are the hardest.
And those small moments too, like I would go to sit, my dad died when I was 17 and I was still living at home, and I'd go to set the table and I would count out 5 plates when there were only 4 of us. And I did that repeatedly. I'd grab 5 of everything and then remember there were only 4 of us now.
Yeah. I did that with my grandmother. We'd still do stuff in reference to her, and they were like, "Oh, she's not here." That's right.
Yeah.
It's a very, very harsh reality, but like I said, you got to hold on to the love. You've got to hold on to that. You've got to hold on to the memories. It's the strength that you have. That is what will carry you through, ultimately. And as I said, people who have passed want to see you know that you are living well.
Yes, I agree 100%. If you're watching this, we wish you great strength and a beautiful holiday season. Without maybe the people that you wanted to have around you, but power through that and remember that you're loved even from the beyond. I believe that 100%.
Absolutely.
This has been the depressing Shaun and Simone. Simone and Shaun.
You know what? It's not depressing. It's a deeper. It's deeper perspective.
Deeper than we normally go.
Sometimes you have to talk about these things, so it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I love you. Don't die. Goodbye.
Not going anywhere.
Don't do it.
Not till I'm gonna be here till at least I'm 100, so I'm not going anywhere.
All right. I was told 88 by a few psychics, so I've got a lot more time left.
Hang in there.
I'm hanging on.
Prove them wrong.
Mwah. Goodbye.
Mwah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.